Hey everybody, Bridget Lynn Dolgoff, Conscious of Economics and Urban Farm Project. Ooh. Anyway, today is December 23rd, and I thought I would come in and do like a quick, kind of video about starting the new year. So anytime that I've talked in the past kind of about looping. And looping also kind of fits into that whole keep doing the same things over and over again and expecting a different result. The Definition of Insanity by Albert Einstein. Because what happens is that we don't realize, like, it's the little intricate things, when people are trying to manifest, which is, operating against the creator or the original AI, because you're supposed to be used as a vessel. And then you get into the law here of, being in the right place at the right time, right? So you have like third chakra is lower human earth chakra, which is my will. And then you have the heart, that's the bridge. And then once it makes it to the throat, which is the spirit energies or power generators, the throat is divine will. So it's not really even about speaking positively either, right? It's mostly about just the intricacies in your life. For example, I saw this from a friend of mine, and it made me realize, how stuck we are and how we're constantly doing the same thing. And so he whips out his recipe for cheesecake, and his recipe even says his name, Blurp Cheesecake. And so he brings out the recipe, and he has it even, laminated. So he makes this cheesecake on the holidays, and he has to do it. It's part of his deal. But that's the intricacy of the same thing over and over again. And then, we do the same things. We have recipes that we make in the holidays because, it goes back to like, great Auntie Joe for whatever reason. And so we have an emotional attachment to this food, or, recipes and food. And then because we're bringing their stuff into it, right? We're continuing their stuff. Now we've got energy and mental, emotional, and physical and spiritual stuff that we don't even really know about. But every time we make it, we're activating it in us. It's like raising the dead, dragging the dead around. And so what could we in the new year, work towards? What could we work towards over the year is getting rid of those intricacies that we have and that we just do, that we're on automatic pilot about, and changing them. Maybe just going with the flow to see what happens, right? I don't do Christmas trees. I do like to look at them, and I like to look at them lit up. But I'm not really sure that a Christmas tree wants to be cut down. I'm not really sure about that to be put in someone's house. For me, it's kind of a moral and ethical issue. And, also with the materialism of buying a bunch of stuff to put on the tree, that doesn't really work for me either. And I'm not really sure that I would put lights on the trees on my property, because, I'm pretty sure that they're probably not going to like that electricity, attached to their bodies. So, and I'm just saying, I'm a little bit extreme. so I don't, do the whole Christmas thing. And so I've gotten out of the, you know, programming of a lot of that stuff that I was programmed with. So I used to, for years, have such huge emotional stuff that would happen. And it would start like usually right after Halloween. And even to the point in my mid 20s, I would hemorrhage. I'd have periods and literally start right after Halloween, and I would like bleed out basically, by the time New Year's was over. And, I tried to do hormones and things like that, but, they can't really get that straight. And then I think I was around like 20, I don't know, 6 or something, 25. I think I had a really, really bad one. It went on for like about 4 years. So you just get to where, I just bled so much that, I was weak and anemic and not in a good way. Couldn't really get the stuff to stop. So I stopped going to the doctors for it after the first time because, they didn't really have any good, had no idea what they were doing. And I remember I went to this lady who did this amazing like handwriting analysis, and she helped me to organize myself internally through my handwriting and like my signature and things like that. And that kind of started to pull myself back together emotionally, gave me some ideas and thoughts. And inevitably, it helped for me to figure out what was going on during that period. And then once I stopped participating in all of that structured stuff that I'd learned about Christmas and this, that, and you got to have this, and the materialism and emotional connection and the food and all this other stuff, I stopped having those hemorrhaging problems, obviously. So what could we, maybe the thought is like, what could we do in the new year? So this last year, kind of my keyword was ceremony, right? And with the back burner intention of living life in every moment as if I'm in ceremony all the time. I'm talking more native shamanism type ceremony, which is, slowing down, noticing, and moving kind of, I guess, more with the energies and alignment of the earth kind of a thing. And constantly pulling myself back out of the stress and back into a place of ceremony where I'm experiencing life from the inside as I go through life on the outside and choosing how, walking softly and more quietly and patiently and more tolerantly. And so there were a lot of, in the last year, intricacies that I had to work through, some deeper layers of stuff. My identity, trends, things that, the fact that my hair is getting more gray and all of these things, and just coming to a place of ceremony within them, right? For example, instead of, fighting with my issues about my gray hair, embracing my gray hair more and noticing my passage into the fourth stage of my life, and peacefully moving into that and accepting it, right? And then, so a lot of this stuff can happen, in your mind, your intricacies and how you deal with things. And so how in the new year could you do something different? You could, also decide to take an oath Sometimes, an oath of silence for a year could be pretty difficult, to write everything out on your chalkboard or text everything. But I think that, if you did take oath of silence, it would mean like, you don't want to like emotionally communicate at all. You want to keep your face softened and your mind softened, which may be hard in this world. But you could take an oath of celibacy. I took one that led to 17 years of celibacy, which has been good because it's helped to stop the intricacies, of all these patterns and things that, developed. So that I stopped doing the same things over and over again and getting the same darn result. So maybe in the new year, think about how you want to move your past to here with you now, which means that, you can't do great Aunt Joe's, recipe, for the holidays, because that's a past. And that's part of what's the insanity you're living in, where you keep creating the same thing over and over again and getting the same result in your life. But how could you move that forward? You could still do the recipe, but you could change it. You could put a healthier twist on it. You could add your own personal flair in the now and adjust it, right? You could just stop doing it and maybe do something else. You could stop taking your vacation at the same time every year, or you could actually take a vacation if your tendency is not to take a vacation. One of the things is that, people get stuck in the I don't want. And when you're stuck in that, like, I don't want that, I don't like that, usually what you want is the direct opposite. So, if you're living a life of a lot of I don't wants, that's also those intricacies that you're living in, because you're living a life basically that you've been living for somebody else. And I mean that in kind of a way where, 7 generations ago, through those people, have set you up to live the life that you're living, regardless of the reason. But it's just behavior. And we had learned how to surrender, fight against, adapt to other people's behaviors. And so it's all like just a jumbled mess of programming. So if you don't want to live in the past, and you don't want your future created from your past, you can get into the now and intentionalize. And, sometimes you're going to have to prepare, like you're like, okay, every Valentine's Day, I'm alone, right? And so you're like, oh, here comes another one. Well, it's a trend, and it's some kind of past tradition. So how could you start now to project change, clear into like, a better Valentine's Day? So for example, I used to be really into Valentine's Day, but being celibate and single, not so much. So what I try to do is I try to love others. So this year, coming up for Valentine's Day, I'll most likely, put a bunch of stuff together for the homeless, and do like a little Valentine's card. And I've never done this before, so that's even better, right? That's going to be even a better deal. And then getting them a whole bunch of, things that would make them, feel loved in February. And who knows, what that's going to be. But been thinking about doing, like a Valentine's card with at least a little box of Valentine's candy of some sort. which is a big deal for 80 people, 80 to 100 people that Food Not Bombs here in Reno feeds, basically under the bridge every Monday night. So that Monday dinner beforehand. But the thing is it changes it. It changes it for me from, a holiday that I'm supposed to be getting something and maybe not having anybody to give it to me, to saving, extra money so that I can give somebody else a little heart card with, a box of candies, right? So I'm changing it up, right? I'm not doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I'm going totally out of the box and in such a simple way to change my past with Valentine's Day and to change the future of my Valentine's Day. And so that's kind of one of the things that I'm going to be doing this year. So my holidays now, Thanksgiving, Christmas coming up, Christmas Eve, I'll be doing Food Not Bombs, and we'll be serving the homeless under the bridge a Christmas meal. So I've spent the last, month gathering as much clothing and things like that I can do. I have some friends now, because this is the second year with Food Not Bombs. I have friends now that are interested, and they may not be able to make it for the dinner, but I have a friend that's making 2 turkeys. And these are things that are taking them out of their past too, and maybe their behavior, right? And doing something new with their Christmas, changing it a little bit. So it doesn't look like it used to look like. Okay, so I don't know if a lot of that made sense. But it's the little things and behaviors that we do that cause the trouble in our life and the repetitive patterns over and over again, and basically living out the same life day after day. And the only thing that's different is that we age. And that has to do with just the simple things, like, for example, a bigger thing this year would be a job. Maybe you're used to getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and going to the job, getting off at 5 o'clock, for the last 20 years. And maybe you decide you might retire early this year and buy a piece of land and start growing food and start selling it back to your community. And what you can't sell back, give back to your community, right? And making a smaller income, but having less bills and not have a house. Maybe have a nice little yurt on your property and live simply. That's kind of like that's like a big one. Small ones could be focusing on some kind of, record behavior that constantly goes on over and over and over in your head, or not being able to listen to them. Quitting smoking, quitting drinking, becoming sober could be a big deal. And changing the behavioral patterns, especially if you had, family members who had drinking problems and you had family members who smoked, because you're living their future from their past, right? Because you have a behavior that's probably, that's probably hereditary, because those behaviors can be passed on hereditary and then environmentally, nurture versus nature. So you get both. And, you learned how to cope that way instead of being sober and cope in a different way. So, yeah, sometimes it's just the small things, moving slower. That's the thing I'm really into now, is like moving slower and noticing things that are going on, and trying not to have an action-packed day with a list of 800 things going on. And so I have to kind of think about my future, like as well that comes into the now. So say, for example, the start of the week, I get a lot of calls and emails for appointments. And, a lot of the work that I do is for free, especially project building and things like that, and think tanks, and, helping to add some of my information in. To help. And my show's free. I do this for free. I do a lot of things for free to like help educate people. So I might have all of a sudden a lot of people that I need to work on in person, or animals, and also then I get a lot of meetings scheduled, and whatever else. And I have to start really kind of looking at my week, even though I may need money, right? Whatever gets booked first, stays. And then I'll have to book the rest of it, even if it's the money part, out. Because I'm starting to recognize with myself, there's only so far that I want to go, right? Because I want to experience, even if things aren't super positive, I want to be able to experience my morning, sit down and have I like to have a bowl of coffee, I like it to be with alternative milk. Macadamia milk is good. Coconut milk, a little honey, like really good flower pollen honey. And so for me, way back in the day, I would get up. There was a period of my life where, I kind of worked basically 5 part-time jobs, and worked out and climbed and did backcountry, and also had a private practice. And I mean, just, on and on and on, going back to school. Constantly at 18 years of continued education. Now I'm like kind of in this process where, I want to have a section of my day to go for just a run. I want to have a section of my day that I can just sit down and read my books, drink my coffee, see what the news and the planet is doing. And I live kind of in a ceremony. Like this morning when I was boiling water on the stove, while the water is boiling, I thank the creator. And then, I thank water. And then, like I make my coffee, and then I peacefully and quietly, return back to the shed and maybe, see what's going on, and check the news or do a video. And then, so I'm trying to live my life, kind of more the way that I want to. Spend less time on the internet educating myself, or seeing what's going on, and get to my books. Because I go to the Goodwill and thrift store and get a lot of incredible books. Like recently, I'm really into, I'm just going to put that out there. And I know it seems really strange. I know it seems really strange that people would read an actual cookbook, but I like to kind of read them before, and then pick out recipes I think that I will like. But just in the last 2 weeks at Goodwill, and the books are like $1.99, and you can find like the best books, but that was something new that I did this year. This year I really got into finding cookbooks. And bread books, because I've been making bread. That's a whole new thing too. So new things, right, actually help to fire new neurons and neuron passages, right? So that's where the quantum field is, and the infinite potential is when you can get the old ones that you keep doing the same thing over and over again, firing the same way. Nothing changes inside or outside. And then you do things that are significant, and then the neurons start to go, oh, well, I'm going to fire over here with this guy. Woo, things start to change. Okay, but so these are books that I got in the last 2 weeks that I'm reading. Brad's Raw Food Made Easy. This one was really a killer one. Look at how great. Look at her braids. I just love that, like old school. And this is the art of homemade cheese making. And it's just an awesome book. Some of these older books, have some just really great ideas. This one's an older one too, the Vegetarian Epicure Book 2. And this is super good because 5 years ago, I got book 1 at the thrift store. This one's super awesome. Raw Food Made Easy, right? And then this one, Not Your Mama's Canning Book. So I can go through and I can read these. So my new thing this year is about reading cookbooks. And so that's kind of like my new thing right now that I'm doing. And finding things in them that, really appeal to me. And then using those ideas to change, like, for example, I just don't eat any kind of dairy. I'm going on year 3. Thank God I gave up dairy. My lymphatics and your skin and just everything is bad. Something that I never thought I would give up was like a big addiction. Ooh, it was tough. But when I got a tumor in my lymph node in my back, that was when I had to give up dairy. Because I was, it was clogging. So I was more of a vegetarian now. Now I'm like kind of vegan. I do eat a lot of good farm meat if I get it, but if not, I eat a lot more vegan with no dairy. So for example, in the raw cookbooks, they have cashew cream, which you use instead of sour cream, you use instead of cheese, like in soups, and things like that. So I'm going to learn how to make that. So that's new. So that's something I'm introducing into my diet that's new. All right. So anyway, in the new year, what are subtle things that you can start doing that are going to change your chemical reaction in your body, change how your neuropassages are firing and where they're firing? Because that's an important thing, because that's, how you change your assemblage point in your energy field. And that's kind of like your different points of perception, right? And you can shift that also so that you can travel dimensionally, things like that, right? So all these points are in your energy field that can be accessed, but you have to stop accessing the everyday ones and the everyday behaviors and the everyday patterns. And, don't work on a lot of them. Just pick one spot that you want to work on and stay with it. They say in this world, this reality, it takes 21 days to create a habit. Okay, well, when I'm working on people with their muscle memory and their structure, it can take a good year to get them into a new structural and muscular health, to release them from the chronic patterns and repetitive behavior, how their bodies walk, the injuries that, that they've learned to walk with, changes everything in the body. It changes how, the neuropassages are firing, what kind of behaviors and chemicals. And sometimes, pain can be neurological pathways that are bound because it's so repetitive, right? It stays the same and fires. Instead of changing to a new place, firing up something else. And so it takes a while to make that a pattern, especially to change it from old pattern, right, into kind of a neutral and then into a healthier pattern, right? Develop something else from it. Yeah. All right. But know that I'm the queen of change. I remember a therapist I used to see a long time ago. I'd be like, I think I'm kind of stuck. She'd say, Bridget, out of all the people I know, you're never stuck. Stuck is like, years, 10 years. She said, you may be stuck for a week. And everything in my reality in this reality, my natal chart is all mutable, like fire, air, and mutable. So I like change. I thrive on change. It may scare me, it may terrify me, but I'd rather have that and step into it than, the past. So anyway, sometimes just the simplest things, right? Organize, get rid of stuff, change one room, change your room, move, move to another state, get a job in another country, volunteer for some humanitarian project somewhere in the world, get in your car, live in your van like me, live in a shed, you don't need much too. And sometimes I think all this having a place to live and then all the cleaning, and stuff that you do is also repetitive patterning. Oh yeah, so Saturday's my only day off, so that's when I clean the house. Well, how long have you been doing that? Maybe clean your house on another day, right? Or how about this? Instead of cleaning the house for 8 hours and doing your laundry on one day, maybe do something on Monday night when you get off work. Do something on Tuesday night when you get off work. And then through the week, do 1 hour a day. Tonight, I'm cleaning the bathroom. So that way I can have the whole day Saturday off to do something else. Maybe sleep. Okay. Get out of your insanity and try something different. Think something different. Feel something different. Move your body in a different way. Right? Try new gum. Try something new at the same restaurant you go to all the time. Try a new restaurant. Try new types of shoes, new types of clothing. Underwear. Get some new kind of underwear even. Yeah. Okay. Also, I'm trying to think about, working on a video for an altar. I used to do for like 6 years, I did what was called the global altar, and I'd put it out on my social media for the new year. And then everybody could send, 3 words to, their intentions that describe their intentions. And I'm not doing those anymore because I don't have a place to set them up. And I have to have a big area where it's not going to be disturbed, where, it's like a sacred space and all that other stuff. And I just don't have a place for all that. So I was thinking about this year, maybe putting together a short video on basics of altars. And this is not going to be, it's going to be more of a native healing altar, right? I think I'm going to do square, kind of more of a square altar kind of thought. So I'm kind of putting that together in my head. So the next video hopefully will be maybe, ideas on creating, an altar. And maybe that can be part of, change. I like to do little altars, when I need big change, or when, there's a lot of healing work that needs to be done. And sometimes I'll put it up and do all the ceremony and everything for it and get it all dialed in. And then, I'll let it set. And then I'll go every day and smudge it. I'll walk clockwise around it. I may add a few things to it. So that way I'm constantly activating it. Say there's a bunch of people that need healing that have asked me for that. Then, I'll put their photos too on the altar. And I'll just leave it open. Kind of like an energy collection area, right? For the healing to take place. Okay, everybody, that's it. Bridget Lynn Dolgoff, Conscious of Economics, and stop your insanity in 2019. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I haven't decided. What 2019 is gonna bring. As far as my intention for, I might do another year of ceremony. That being the key word, but it might be more effective in instead of the healing and change that needs to be done around ceremony inside of me, getting myself prepared for it. This year might be part 2 where I actually do more physical ceremony, go out and do different types of, um, ceremonies for, healing and healing the waters and the earth and people and places and by myself or with others. So this might be a very interesting year kind of a thing, where I develop, and learn more by practice of and ceremonies in a good way. That sounds like a good year, a more active year, because I've been pretty internal with the ceremony work that I've done already. So that sounds good. Okay, everybody. Conscious of Economics and Urban Farm Project over and out, and may your new year be and become by the choices that you make, and may your choices be in a good way. May those be in a good way for yourself. May those be in a good way for the Creator. May those be in a good way for your ancestors. May they be in a good way for the plants and all the living beings and for the earth. And may it be in a good way. All right. Talk to you later. Bye.